why I applied to 13 degree apprenticeships. In this video, I'm going to explain the reasons why I applied to exactly 13 different degree apprenticeships, exactly what it says on the tin. Just before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name's Owen. I'm a degree apprentice and I help people get degree apprenticeships in the engineering, technology and finance industries. These are some of the people I've helped last year get into companies like JLR, HSBC, Amazon, Rolls-Royce and KPMG, just to name a few. Okay, so let's get into this video. So let's talk about the university application process. Okay, first of all, so this is all done centrally via UCAS. You have to submit your 4,000 character personal statement and you all send it off at once, and it goes to a maximum of 5 universities. Okay, so it's a very centralized and sort of specified system that you have to follow. That's what you do for university. Okay, let me compare this to the degree apprenticeship application process. This is very different. Okay, with degree apprenticeships, you apply individually to each company via their website, and each of these companies is going to have a different application process. Okay, completely different from the centralized UCAS. Everything is just different and separate for degree apprenticeships. What this means is you can apply to as many or as few companies as you want. Okay, so why did I personally then apply to 13 degree apprenticeships? Well, I think a more important question to start with is, why didn't I apply to just 1 or 2? Okay, because this is the thing that I've found with degree apprenticeships. A lot of people sort of visualize 1 or 2 companies that they want to work with. Let me give you an example. So I remember probably being as young as year 10, year 11, that sort of thing. I knew I wanted to do a degree apprenticeship at JLR. Okay, straight away. I knew JLR was like the number one company I wanted to do a degree apprenticeship with. I have a friend, he knew he wanted to do a degree apprenticeship at either JLR or Amazon. Okay, I know a lot of people in sort of the finance industry, finance technology sort of industry, they know I want to do a degree apprenticeship at PwC. A lot of people are very set on sort of these companies. Maybe you have a few companies, have a think of them right now. What companies do you want to work at? A lot of people think of those 1 or 2, maybe 3 key companies that they'd want to work at. So if there's like 1 or 2 which you're targeting, why don't you just apply to 1 or 2? Like, what's the point of applying to 13? To the end of the day, if you're applying to 13, there's probably a bunch of those companies you don't really care about. Like, there's probably, like, compared to the 1 or 2 ones you're really interested in. You see what I'm saying? Well, you don't want to apply to just those 1 or 2. The problem with that is that degree apprenticeships are hugely competitive. Okay, and it makes sense because degree apprenticeships are a really good package. More and more people are learning about them. You're getting paid to do a degree. Okay, and instead of going to university, getting into loads of debt, then you can't even get a graduate job and the degree's useless anyway, all this sort of stuff. That's why degree apprenticeships are becoming so popular, and this means they're hugely competitive. You can have hundreds or thousands of people applying to these degree apprenticeship roles. And it's actually going to get even more competitive as time goes on. And this is sort of a graph of interest in degree apprenticeships. You can actually see, like, in the last year alone, it is sort of accelerated. So you can expect going into 2025, going into 2026, more and more people are finding out about degree apprenticeships. They're going to get even more competitive. Okay. So I applied to 13, and what was the breakdown of this 13? Well, I got 8 offers, 8 successful offers. 2 of them I got rejected, and there were 3 which I pulled out halfway through because I didn't want them anymore. Right. The 2 I got rejected on, okay, it was on this exact stage. There's a stage there called online testing, where it was with this company called Arctic Shores, and you had to like do some online testing. One of the stages was you had to solve a safe. This was like the exact stage of the application process, which I ended up getting rejected on. Okay, I want to just show you the application process with degree apprenticeships. Look how long it can be. Okay, there's so many different stages of the degree apprenticeship application process. It can start with a CV, a cover letter, application questions. It can move on to an online testing, a video interview, and then it can at the end be real interview, group exercise, presentation task, case study, networking event. Like, there's so many different things they can do. All it takes is you to fail in one of these, and then you're gone. Boom, no degree apprenticeship. Okay, like, you could do really well in your CV, really well in your cover letter, really well in your application questions, really well in your online testing, really well in your video interview, but then it comes to the real interview and you accidentally stumble a bit, you like mess up, you do something wrong, and then boom, you're straight away rejected, you're not getting the job. Okay, and that's the reality with degree apprenticeships. They are hugely competitive, and there's so many stages that it's not worth the risk basically applying to 1 or 2. That's why I didn't apply to 1 or 2. That's why I applied to 13. Because all it takes is on those 1 or 2 applications you're doing, you just mess up in one bit of online testing, you mess up in one presentation task, you mess up in one cover letter, you mess up in one like group exercise, and boom, you're gone. And then you can't do a degree apprenticeship at all because you've got no offers. Okay, so that's like the first reason why you don't want to apply to just 1 or 2. You want to be applying to more just because it's not worth the risk. But on top of that, you're also going to be getting practice. Okay, that's a really good thing as well with applying to lots of companies, is you're going to get practice. I've done mock interviews with people in the past, and the first ever interview I did with them is shocking. Like, they had a really bad interview. They wouldn't have got the job in the mock interview I did. So I had to do like multiple questions with them, go through interviews, a couple of interviews with them, basically coach them up to the level where they managed to get an offer. I did this for some people from JLR, and I helped them get offers from JLR. And then eventually they'd be good at interviews and they get the job. Okay? And that's one of the benefits of applying to like 13 different companies, is basically I had 8 interviews. That meant by my 8th interview, I was really good at interviews. If you're applying to only 1 or 2, it's probably going to be your first interview. It's going to be your second interview. You're not going to be very good at interviews. Does that make sense? Because you're going through this application process more and more times. Maybe you're going through it 8 times. Maybe you're going through it 10 times. Maybe you're going through it 13 times. You're going to get better at each stage of the application process. Okay, so remember that safe thing I showed earlier, which was where I failed twice. I actually did that a 3rd time, and the 3rd time I managed to pass it. Okay? And that's where the practice comes in. If I just applied to 2 and I'd got rejected on those 2, congratulations, I wouldn't have been able to do a degree apprenticeship. But because I applied to a 3rd one as well, I'd sort of learned how to crack the safe, how to do this Arctic Shores, and I actually succeeded the 3rd time I did this Arctic Shores test. Okay, and like, funnily enough, I made 2 videos on this, and now these are the most 2 popular videos on my channel. Like, that just shows it to you. If you just apply one or two, you might get rejected, but like, you do it a 3rd time, you do it a 4th time, you do it a 5th time, you're going to start to be getting good at the application process, and you're going to know how to do it. Okay, so that's really why you want to be applying to not just 1 or 2, you want to be applying to quite a lot, is because the first thing is it decreases the risk of getting randomly rejected, and then you don't have a degree apprenticeship. But second of all, it's a really good practice, because you're going to get so used to interviews, so used to applying, so used to online testing and group exercise and all this sort of thing, that you can get good at the application process. Okay, so the key points to take away from this. Key point number 1 is you want to apply to 10 plus. Okay, so if we just take this advice to the extreme, how about we just apply to 30, 40 or 50 degree apprenticeships and just send them off like loads of people do online? They say they've applied to 50 different degree apprenticeships, and you send them all off. Does that automatically mean you're going to get a degree apprenticeship? Like, just copy and paste 50, send them off, boom, I've got a degree apprenticeship. No, it's not as simple as that. Because that's when you can put in applications like this. Okay, this is like some cover letter. I literally Googled on the internet like bad cover letter, and you get this sort of cover letter, copy and pasted, which you've sent off to 50 different companies, right? And this isn't going to get you the job. Okay, this isn't going to get you through to the next stage. Here's another one. Boom, you can send this off to as many people as you want. Oh, Owen said that I need to apply to 10 plus, so I'm going to apply to 30 degree apprenticeships, and I'm just going to copy and paste the same cover letter, the same application, and send it off, and I'm automatically guaranteed to get a degree apprenticeship. No, it's not as simple as that. Okay, because when you send off an application like this, you send it off to just 50 companies at once within the space of like 5 minutes, it looks generic. Okay, it's just generic. You've copy and pasted it and you've sent it off to 50 degree apprenticeships because I told you to do more than 10. No, it's not as simple as that. Because when it's generic, these are the connotations your recruiter is getting. You seem lazy. Seems like you just want any job, like you're not committed. You might leave halfway through. Like, have a look at this. This sort of paragraph anyone could have sent to anyone. Right, I'm not going to read this and think, oh, you can be a really good employee. No, it just seems like you're lazy, you're not committed. You've just copy and pasted some generic application. At the end of the day, they're thinking, you're not as good as this candidate over here. And who's this candidate over here? Well, it's the candidate who's done this. So this is actually a paragraph from one of the real cover letters I submitted. And it's basically a research paragraph. Okay, it's where I've come to this specific company and I've tailored a specific paragraph about that company. So it was a competition I'd done with that company. I talked about the research I'd done on their company, their key vision, their commitment. I knew about 2026, right? When I submitted this application, they could see, oh, he's actually researched this company in particular. He hasn't just sent the cover letter off to 50 different companies. Okay, let me give you another example. So this is part of a cover letter I've sort of used as a template to help people, and it's based on the structure I use to help get my 8 degree apprenticeship offers. It's the same thing. You can see the research I've done. I know that your company cares about da-da-da-da. I know that your goal is this. Right? I read about your work on this. I saw the project you did on this. This isn't something you can just send off to every single company 50 times. This is like a paragraph you are handcrafting for every single company. And when you do something like this, it shows it's personalized. And when it's personalized, these are the connotations it's giving to the recruiter. It's showing you're hardworking because you've spent time on all of these different applications. Okay? Like, it's a lot harder to personalize these applications. Of course, as I said, you can copy and paste a cover letter and application, send it off to 50 different companies. It takes you 2 minutes. Congratulations. Or you can personalize it for every single company, and it might take you 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours per company, per application. Okay, I'll get into how long you should be spending in a second. But for a lot of my applications, I was spending 3, 4, or 5 hours on each application. I remember I was applying over Christmas last year, over the Christmas holiday, and like one morning I spent like 5 hours on one application. Okay? And what that is it shows you're hardworking when it's personalised. It shows you're dedicated, shows you're committed, shows you're proactive, shows you take the initiative. Those are the sort of qualities you want the recruiters to be attributing towards you. Like, as I said, there's hundreds of people applying, thousands of people applying to these degree apprenticeships. You have to be the person who stands out. Okay, you have to have such a personalised application. It shows you take the initiative, shows you're proactive. The recruiter, instead of thinking, oh, this guy was better, they're thinking, best candidate so far. That's literally the words you want to be aiming for. That's what you want the recruiter to think when they look at your application. Best candidate so far. Okay? So key point number 2. You've got to personalize every application. Copy and pasting doesn't work. Okay? So those are the 2 key points from this video. Like, how do we actually operate it? Okay, so what are the actionable steps you need to do? What's your roadmap going forward then using these key points? So let's put these key points together. We need to apply to 10 plus. Okay, as I said, because if you apply to 1, you'll probably get rejected. 2, you might just randomly get rejected. Just 10 plus to be safe. But we also need to make sure we're personalizing every application, because if we're copying and pasting, it just looks generic. It makes us look lazy and not committed compared to someone who's takes initiative, is proactive, is committed, all this sort of thing. Okay, so to combine these together, this is the sort of plan of action that you want to go with. Okay, apply to as many as you have time to personalize. That's sort of monarchy you need to think about when you're going through your degree apprenticeship applications. Okay, because as I said, people can take this to the extreme, apply to 10 plus and they go and apply to 50, but they're copy and pasting it. You're wasting your time. That's why I've seen people say, oh, I've applied to 40 and I haven't heard back from a single one. Let me just be brutally honest with you right now. It's probably because you were submitting like this, which is just sort of some generic, bland nothingness. Like, if I'm a recruiter, let me just go all in on this, right? I'd just reject this immediately. I probably wouldn't even bother replying, because it's like, what are you doing? You've just copy and pasted a paragraph. You've spent 20 seconds on this. Why am I going to waste my time even looking at this? Like, you clearly don't even care about this job. Okay? So that's why you can't just apply to 50 and copy paste. You need to make sure you're personalizing. Okay, so this is, as I said, this is the monarch you need to go with. Apply to as many as you have time to personalize. And it's as simple as that. So it's going to depend on how much time you want to invest in your future and getting into a degree apprenticeship. So it could be maybe you just apply to 5. Okay, I'd still recommend plus 10, but just make sure you're personalizing every single one. Because any application you send which isn't personalized, which you haven't specifically tailored to the company in terms of research, in terms of your skills, in terms of what you want to mention, then it's just a waste of time. Okay, so for example, me, I was pretty dedicated. I applied to 13 different ones. There were days over my Christmas holiday where I just spent the morning like personalizing my application. Okay, so that's what I want you to go with. If you want like a number that sounds good, because I know a lot of people like want a specific number because maybe this is too generic, apply to as many, then just go with what I done. Go 10 plus, go 15. Okay, let's just go 10 or 15. It's going to be easier to personalize when they're in like similar industries. For example, if all the ones you're applying to in the engineering industry, it's going to be a lot easier to like personalize because you'll sort of just tweak a few bits here and there, compared to if you're like applying to one which is in engineering and then one which is in like marketing. You're gonna have to like completely change them, so that's a lot more work. So I'd recommend just sticking to 1 or 2 industries. So I applied to engineering industry and a bit to technology sort of industry. That's what I'd recommend. Okay, just stick to some similar industries and apply to as many as you have time to personalize. And the sort of numbers you're probably looking for a 10, 15 or 20. It doesn't necessarily need to be 50. If you're dedicated, you want to put in the effort, fair enough, go do 50. But I would just personally recommend 10, 15, 20, something like that. Just as many as you have time to personalize. There's not really a number that I can say for definite for everyone. I'll give you a ballpark. I applied to 13. That's a ballpark I was happy with. Just apply to as many as you personally have time to personalize with. Okay, so there we go. That's that video explained why I applied to 13 degree apprenticeships. Now that you know how many companies you want to apply to, click this video on the left to learn how to succeed in every single part of the degree apprenticeship application process. And if you want my personal feedback on your CV and cover letter to help you with your application, then click here on the right. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.